The notion of hell is as old as our concept of the afterlife, which of course goes back to the world's earliest burial sites. But that being said, what hell is and beliefs about what hell is have changed and evolved a great deal over time. Today we understand hell oftentimes as a place of eternal torment, a place of torture, a place of fire and brimstone, a place where we are eternally separated from God. Now, we also have an understanding that good people go to heaven and bad people go to hell, that our ultimate destiny is decided by our actions here on this earth. But if we go back to the world's earliest religious traditions, we find that their understandings of the afterlife were very different than our own, naturally. In ancient Mesopotamia, for instance, they believed in an underworld ruled by the goddess of death, Nerishkigal. And the underworld was a place where everyone went when they died, regardless of how good or evil they were. It was similar in some ways to the Greek notion of Hades, or the earliest Egyptian traditions. In this worldview, everyone went to the same place when they died. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't heavens where the gods dwelled, but those were the abodes of the gods, not of human beings. You might be surprised to learn that ancient Judaism, in fact, had a very similar model. The ancient Jews believed in a place called Sheol. It was a place that was frequently referenced in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. Heaven was a place for God, for angels, not for humans. Now, Sheol, much like the Mesopotamian underworld and like Hades, was a place of dust and forgetfulness, a place of shadows, not so much a place of torment or punishment as it was a place synonymous with the grave, a place where you forget your former existence and where you drift endlessly in a ghost-like sort of state. In fact, it's a little unclear at this point whether the earliest Jews even believed in an afterlife at all, or if this Sheol was in fact a metaphor for the grave. It wasn't until the 6th century BCE when the Achaemenid Persian Empire arrives on the scene under Cyrus the Great. Now, things changed a great deal under the Persians. The Persians had a religion known as Zoroastrianism. This, of course, went back to the prophet Zoroaster, also known as Zarathustra. Zoroaster taught a dualistic understanding of the cosmos. Up until this point, everything was very monistic. The gods themselves were ambivalent up until this point. They were good and evil. They weren't purely good or evil. That changed with Zoroastrianism, which introduced two equal and opposed deities. And in this worldview, in which there was opposed forces of good and evil, this also affected their notion of the afterlife. There wasn't just a single place you went when you died anymore. You would sort of be on the side of the good or on the side of the evil. Within Zoroastrianism, there's a tradition known as the Shinvaght Bridge. It's said that when you die, everyone must cross over this bridge. And those who are good and light of spirit will find the bridge easy to cross. And on the other side, they'll find paradise. For those whose souls are weighted down with wickedness and evil, for them, the bridge appears to be impossibly narrow, and inevitably they fall off and plunge into the depths of hell. In order to understand how this dualistic notion of the universe, this notion of heaven and hell, as opposed to a singular afterlife, in order to understand how that filtered down into Judaism and later Christianity, we have to go back to the 6th century BCE and understand what happened there in the geopolitical climate.